Out. All right, we are live on air. Let's send the link out to everybody.
Live.
Here talking wrestling.
So I've been trying to research unused wrestling terms for a name, and I'm coming up short still. I kind of like Babyface Pop was okay. The tag rope was okay, but tag rope was used. I don't know.
Well, it'll be something new every week.
Yeah. All right, link is set. I'm gonna retweet it from a couple of my accounts. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
I've got my iPad with me. Do research.
Good. Oh, good idea. Good idea. You can do that. I'll rely on you to get us the knowledge we need. Okay. Clear my throat. Episode 2. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to episode 2 of the Unnamed Wrestling Podcast. We thought we had a name, and then we realized we didn't have a name because it was taken.
Who would have thought that would have been the hardest part of the whole?
I know, right? Yeah, we have a great format. The name is tough.
I mean, there are a few wrestling podcasts out there, so
there's a handful.
Yeah, one or two.
Well, I'm Dolly Domofsky. Joining me, as usual, is John Keogh.
I'm John Keogh, finally with a webcam, so.
Finally, we can see your beautiful visage.
Yeah, the gray hair in my beard, yeah.
I have gray hair starting on the sides here, and I'm loving it. I think the salt and pepper look is awesome for these.
My wife calls this my classic hobo look.
I love it.
I haven't shaved in a while, so.
So that's where the Brooklyn Brawler went. And also JJ Holder. How's it going, JJ?
I'm doing good. Much harsher light today, but.
Yeah, I need to get better lights in here because my whole area is dark. So the only lights that are hitting me right now are really bad room light that came with the house. So you could, those really ugly warm lights. I'm surprised it hasn't blown out yet. It's like 11 years running. And the light off my laptop screen. So anytime you're on the screen, JJ, because you're lit so well, it actually lights me up better. Well, welcome, gentlemen, and welcome, viewers, to the second episode of our wrestling podcast. We've learned quite a bit about the wrestling world. No, it's been a totally eventful week. First of all, thank you, everybody, for the great comments for last week. Sorry. Thank you, everybody, for the great comments from last week. It was awesome. A lot of great feedback from people, and we will continue. We still got to get ourselves an email address and a proper feed, but we need to get a name as well. So in the meantime, just watch us, and I think once we get everything kind of resolved, these will all be uploaded onto iTunes, wherever they go into the ether webs. So good times. Yeah. Exactly. Baby steps till we get there. But it's going to be another good show. Last week we had the kickoff of the podcast, and I think it went really well. And this week, we dive into SummerSlam, with a lot of stuff happened at SummerSlam.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. And then there's a lot of cool things that happened on Smackdown, on Raw and Smackdown Live, and we have something that actually happened really cool on the Smack Talk episode. So, where would you guys
And an NXT show happened too.
And an NXT show. Yeah, it was insane.
I mean, it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday worth of quality wrestling to watch and to talk about. I don't know where we're going to start, but
it's too much. And then the news broke that the WWE was adding 7 more pay-per-views and 7 more titles or pay-per-view. It's insane the amount of stuff happening with the WWE.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if I have it in me.
Yeah, I always say, since the network came around and now with all this extra content, if I was in university now, I would have failed out.
No
doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Before it used to be 2 pay-per-views a year I would watch.
Yep.
Now it's every single one.
And now it'll be like 2 to 3 a month, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's gonna be, and whatever specialty thing they decide to throw in there once in a while too.
So they're gonna have, I think they said there are 3 or 4 major ones. So it's Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and then the big four, and then they're gonna have kind of SmackDown and Raw related shows as well, which could be 1 or 2 a month there. So it's gonna be pretty intense.
I would hope that those brand only pay-per-views might be a little shorter than the 4-hour or 6-hour spectacular like they have for SummerSlam and WrestleMania. Because, the Takeover event on Saturday, that was 2.5 hours long, perfect amount of time.
Perfect,
it's all compressed, it's all in a succinct presentation. It's just the way to go.
Yep,
absolutely.
I agree. You want it to be right around the length of time of a really good episode of Raw. Right? You want it to be 2.5. I think 2.5 hours is fantastic. 2.5, 3 at most. But yeah, you get everything compressed, and you get focused. It's going to be really interesting to see how they go forward with it. For all intents and purposes, the things that have been happening with the individual shows. I mean, I watched Daniel Bryan on. The things he's doing with SmackDown seems super interesting, and he's really getting into it. And I'm sure we'll get over that in a second here, but it's really interesting to see how much passion that these folks have in putting this forward. It's almost like I don't say almost like, it definitely is. It feels like there's a lot of like personal pride in getting their own shows, their own kind of aspects of the WWE to be popular. I mean, the NXT has been phenomenal to see come out of nowhere, and now like the majority of fan favorites in the WWE are coming out of NXT. You have the big pay-per-view events, which can end in controversy, as we just saw this past week in the SummerSlam, and then you have Raw and SmackDown, which are great, and you have the everything else involved. So there's a lot of pride. You can almost kind of focus on just one as a fan if you want, and have your great weekly dose of live programming.
I'm pretty sure that's what they want, because they know that they can't get everybody everywhere.
Sure.
If you can have somebody go all in on at least one brand, at least then you have them all in on something. It's hard to watch something on Tuesday night as a follow-up to a Monday night show just to get a complete storyline.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
The nice thing that's going to happen here is SmackDown could potentially grow pretty big on Tuesday nights. Is SmackDown Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday.
With you have NFL Monday night.
Yeah.
Monday Night Football. So it leaves, and they was always competing with Raw. And I know Raw's going to stay there on Monday nights, but SmackDown on Tuesdays is going to be my fix. I think I may just naturally gravitate towards SmackDown because of the weekly timing.
It's a good time slot, and it's now on a good network, because SmackDown just kind of jumped around for a little bit because started off on just terrestrial TV.
It was like UPN or something.
Yeah, which was fun. That's a great way to get people who don't have cable to watch your product, because there's no other outlet at the time. They didn't.
It was like Friday nights way back when, wasn't it? And then it moved to like Thursdays, and then
Thursdays moved it to Fridays, and then they moved it back to Thursdays, and it's always been taped, so it never had the ratings that it could have, because chances are you already knew what happened.
Yeah,
and they weren't going to do anything surprising because they couldn't keep it secret.
Yeah, I mean, there was that period that Paul Heyman was in control of the booking, and you hear about the SmackDown 7, the real really good wrestlers who kind of turned things around for SmackDown and made it
really good time for SmackDown.
Must see, but of course they all got dispersed once they got pretty big and. And
what were the SmackDown 7? Sorry, this is I'm not up on this.
Oh well, I mean, there was back when around the time of the brand split, the first brand split, they had drafts, and at that time as well. And so Paul Heyman was the creative guy behind SmackDown. One of the head. I don't know if he's the head writer, but he was one of the upper echelon. And so he said, "Oh, well, I want Edge and Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero and Benoit." And at the time, the conception was that. Or perception, sorry, was that you needed to have the big guys, like the Cenas and the Batistas and these kinds of fellows. So they were like, yeah, you have those guys for SmackDown. We'll keep the big names and the big dudes on Raw. And as Heyman took those really good workers, Edge and all those guys, and just turned it into a product that was, excellent wrestling and excellent writing, and for a brief period there was actually getting better ratings than Raw. And after a time, so that was back when they actually promoted real competition between the two brands, and then eventually it kind of they had trades and things. People went back and forth the following year, and that so it kind of got dispersed. So, but it was an interesting time.
Yeah, without the crutch of Heyman having to do the ECW style, he's a fantastic mind for wrestling. He really
interesting.
Does.
Yeah.
So that was that time frame of him sort of being the lead of SmackDown made some really great wrestling during that time period. It was top notch.
Sweet.
Lots of good memories coming out of that. And then they put him back in the ECW when they decided to revive that. And we know how that went.
Yeah, that's doing great. Yeah. I do remember that era. I mean, I definitely remember that era. I just wasn't. I didn't know that it was called. That some of those wrestlers were the Big Seven coming out of there. So, very cool. So, should we maybe briefly touch on some of the stuff from this weekend, like NXT and SummerSlam, and go from there?
Yeah, I think that's obviously the NXT best place to start.
Let's do it. So I didn't watch NXT. So if you guys, I would love for you guys to kind of fill me in on what the big news coming out of that was.
Yeah, you can go, JJ.
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest news out of that was Shinsuke Nakamura winning the title. I mean,
okay.
Shinsuke Nakamura is one of the most beloved and most popular stars in the world. Like in Japan, his time over there was just phenomenal, and it's no surprise WWE wanted to buy him up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you would go back and watch some of the last couple of years worth of New Japan and watching sort of the evolution of him and his character and his charisma, it's been just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
He has a huge future in that company. He's big and strong, but he's not like, big in the WWE way. But
just one thing about him is that, I mean, there's a history of WWE not really handling, Asian wrestlers very well.
Me and my friends constantly joke about the sort of well, what's the theme music going to be for Nakamura when he comes in? How long until some sort of super racist gong comes in or something? Because that's just how they always did it. The WWE style is always that way. They don't exactly handle, especially the Asian wrestlers, respectably.
Yeah. There's not a lot of subtle nuance with their approach.
I mean, at the end of his WWE run, they turned Funaki into Kung Fu Naki.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Now there's another guy named Hideo Itami who they've handled pretty well, and of course Asuka has been handled tremendously as well. But I mean, with Itami, he's still he's a good fighter, and he's still a little bit bland so far. But Nakamura just has this built-in character, built-in everything. It's easy just to take him from there and plop him in WWE, and he's good to go.
Even if you've never seen him before, just watching his entrance and his mannerisms, you get him.
Yeah.
You understand exactly who he is.
I would hope that. I would hope that. We had the kind of the Latin American revival in the early 2000s when you had a lot of wrestlers starting to show up out of Latin backgrounds and heritage, and the Asian side, the Asian wrestlers, and there's a huge history and it's super popular in places like Japan. It's ripe for their turn now to get kind of the respect that they deserve, because every time the WWE had gone to Japan for a show, it had done great, right? They were huge fans over there, and the wrestlers that have come out of there have almost always been phenomenal. So I think it's a slightly different style than what we saw coming out of places like Latin America and South America and stuff, obviously, but I think it's still intriguing, and it'd be great to see them kind of get their turn in the light now.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible watching when Itami made his way to the ring and got it was Austin Aries, right?
Mm-hmm. On Saturday, yes, yeah.
Yeah, when he got him up for the GTS, and the crowd just immediately knew what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, in case, I don't know if you're familiar with what that was about.
No.
But, the GTS was CM Punk's finishing move.
Oh, okay, all right.
And
Mm-hmm.
That was Itami's move when he was Kenta. So it was his move, and Punk, was using that move, and so they've sort of been shy about him using that move because he came in right when Punk was leaving.
Okay.
But the fans always knew that was his move. That was Itami's move, so they've been waiting for it, and to have him finally go for it and hit it was a big deal to the NXT crowd. The NXT crowd's a totally different crowd than the
it is.
WWE.
Oh, boy,
is it really? How so?
Because the type of talent that NXT brings in, and because it's a much sort of smaller indie show kind of crowd.
I've heard it kind of referred to as an indie type of show.
Yeah, it really is like WWE trying to book a Ring of Honor show.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's worked out phenomenally. Like, I went to go see an NXT show when it rolled through Seattle. And you've been to PAX before, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know the theater that's over there, that's next to the event center.
Yes.
The Paramount. That's where they held it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's not a traditional wrestling arena. It's like the old ECW stuff where it's like you're almost in like a hall. Like you're everyone's sitting in an arena like looking down at a ring as opposed to sitting around a ring. So it was like it has a different feel to it entirely.
Now, even the weekly show at Full Sail University, it's a smaller venue. I was there when we went for our visit to Florida last year. And I took Peter there, my son, and it only holds a couple hundred people. It's not a huge spot at all. And
I was looking at the numbers when they were doing their tour, and just like an average show brings in only like at most 1,000 people.
Oh, really?
Like from what they're doing. So yeah, it is a small little thing that diehard fans will go out of their way to see.
Yeah. So the reason though, Dally, that they can fill an arena like in Brooklyn there at Barclays Center, they the people who travel in to see SummerSlam, the people fly in from around the country, around the world for big events like WrestleMania in Brooklyn and WrestleMania SummerSlam. So like they're already in town.
Yeah.
And these are the people who would spend the money to fly in to see a big event like that are the people who are like us,
double duty
sure.
show, yeah.
The people who know everybody, know what everybody's already done. Like there's a built-in knowledge base, and of smarter fans. And then you have the other side of the coin where people complain that the NXT fans are a little too smart for their own good, a little too
absolutely can be.
Yeah, a little too cute for their own good, and chant things that are, successful sometimes and sometimes not. But they, when they're on, they're really good. They can really accentuate it if they can keep control of themselves a bit.
By the way, John, sorry, yeah. So I do have to say, John, one thing that's totally not wrestling related, but if I stare at your glasses, I see the reflection of JJ in your glasses. It's pretty funny. It's like all three of us are staring at each other.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier when I was testing out the new camera. I could see myself, and I was.
That's why I took my glasses off, because I could see you guys. or other things on my screen that maybe shouldn't be shown.
Yeah, I can't see a thing without my glasses.
Yeah. I think you and I have pretty similar glasses. Let's so that we can keep this under 8 hours, so you can keep this under the length of a SummerSlam. Let's go on to SummerSlam here. And there's a lot that came out of SummerSlam. There's actually a couple big matches, but to me, and before we get into the Cena side of things, I want to touch on one thing, and that was the blood. So at the end of SummerSlam, you had this kind of an important match, right? You had Brock Lesnar, and you had what's his name?
Randy Orton.
Yeah, Randy Orton. Big fight. It was, it's the Beast, right? It's Brock Lesnar, who had just been essentially suspended or having some sanctions against him from the UFC. And he just beats, they go back and forth, but then there's a point at the end of the match where Orton is cut and is bleeding just absolutely profusely. I mean, I've never seen, that's beyond Ric Flair level bleeding. I mean, Ric Flair was known for having bleach white hair that would turn strawberry pink during almost every single match, right? He was a master of cutting himself. Now, my question is this, and I have an inkling, but I'm not 100% sure. Did Orton cut himself? And if he cut himself, did the excess blood, was that the reason that the match was ended, or do you guys think the match was always going to end this way?
It was always set up to do that way.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he didn't cut himself. That really was Brock's elbows.
Oh, jeez.
It doesn't take much skin-to-skin contact, especially out of an elbow. If you hit it just right on the head, it does not take much to cut somebody open. It obviously went much deeper than they expected, but from what I read, that was always the plan. It was not to that extreme, but not always the plan. I think I read that it was that day when Orton came to the arena, they told him that's how it's gonna. He knows how to hit you to make you bleed.
Oh wow!
That's what the sheets are saying. Yeah,
so.
but from just watching the show, I mean, the whole match was as planned. Orton getting his ass handed to him pretty well for the whole match, and it's just when he's laying those, right on top, laying that elbow in on top of his head, like he was going for blood, and I'm pretty certain that the ref stoppage or the TKO they called it, that was that was the finish, but I don't think he was meant to gush the way he did.
That was incredible.
I think it was supposed to be more of a knockout situation than a stopping for blood situation, but I just think it worked out that way. It was going to end there no matter what, but they just got to build into the storyline that he got his head cut.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, whether he was cut or whatever, it looked like the bleeding was planned in a way, and of course, I'm just kind of really getting back into wrestling. But I didn't expect him to bleed. I don't think I've seen a wrestler bleed that much on purpose, and that's why I thought, oh, that's quite a lot of blood to be handled. So now I guess, I figured an ending would be similar to this. I don't read, I don't read up on it afterwards. But
there was a match several years ago that was Bradshaw versus Eddie Guerrero, and it was back in the day where blood was more commonplace.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero that was getting hit with chair shots and cut himself way too deep. And I'm trying to remember what show that was. I'll have to look it up again.
Okay.
But
one of those Great American Bashes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it might have been, but when you look at the end of that match, I mean, he was bleeding really, really bad. I've never seen blood in that kind of. It looked like he murdered him. Blood was all in the ring, absolutely covering Bradshaw, covering Eddie Guerrero. It was really bad. It was probably the worst modern day blade job I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, it is amazing that you have, like I said, it's amazing you have a guy like a Lesnar who has the precision and the know-how to get that to happen.
Well, I wouldn't call it that precise, but I mean,
it's why if you watch an MMA fight, it's why you get laced up with Vaseline, because skin to skin doesn't take much.
Yeah.
So before getting into the ring, they rub Vaseline on your face and stuff. So when skin does make contact, it just doesn't immediately tear you up.
Yeah. I mean, there's a policy, Dally, now. I mean, from what I read, that there's a policy that there is no intentional cutting allowed. You know, I mean, there was a couple months ago, Roman Reigns bled pretty badly, but it was a blood packet that someone slipped him, and to create the effect rather than a real deal. So that's kind of, you know, again, it's Brock, and he's a bit more legit.
Yeah. Are you gonna say no to Brock if he says
right?
Yeah. What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So
because I remember it was a few years ago, there was a match with Punk, CM Punk in it, and there was blood in it, and the referee slipped him the blade.
Yeah.
And so they both got fined. Punk paid the ref's fine for him because it was Punk's doing. He did it on the down low. he didn't tell anyone there was going to be blood. So, so yeah, it's sort of a rule, but obviously when you're the WWE, if you decide you want to break your own rule, you can.
Yeah, that's right.
What else happened that was big during this SummerSlam, right? So we know there was the Cena match.
AJ Styles beating John Cena clean without any sort of outside anything or any shenanigans was a pretty big deal. I don't think anyone really expected it to go down that way. You hoped it would.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes AJ easily the top heel on SmackDown now, and you know, they needed big time to go up against Ambrose there, because Ambrose's match with Ziggler was pretty lackluster, I thought.
Yeah, they don't really have a complementary style with one another.
No, not so much. But I mean, to me, Cena and AJ was definitely the match of the night.
What was the? There was somebody had mentioned something about, and maybe this is later, maybe this is Raw or SmackDown, I'm not sure, but Cena leaving his armband or something.
After the match. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He finally gave up. He gave up. He surrendered. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what angle they're playing with that, because I don't think a single person believes for a minute that he's like contemplating retirement right now or something. So.
But the other interesting match from SmackDown that had consequences, if you want to lead into Raw, is the Finn Balor Seth Rollins match.
Yes,
which crowned Finn as the new champion of the universe, and but he separated his shoulder during the match and popped it back in, you know, right there in the middle of the match, and finished it. And then on Monday, he had to relinquish it because he's had surgery now. He's out 6 months.
And it's you know, wrestling's real, folks. I mean, there may be scripted aspects of it, but these dudes hit each other beyond belief, and I mean, it's UFC. It's just slightly more planned than UFC. But sorry, UFC folks. No, but when I saw that when I heard that happening, I was, you know, I actually thought it was a good decision by the WWE. I mean, guys getting injured is always tough. You saw the stuff happen to Daniel Bryan. His career was cut short. And you don't want some of these folks like Finn Balor has a lot of potential to be
huge,
to be pretty huge. Exactly.
They clearly went out of their way to make to put him over strong in his injury too. So when he comes back, it's not like, oh, look at this weak baby that got hurt in a match or whatever.
Oh no.
So
I mean, they're showing the clip of him popping the shoulder back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So overall, did you guys
storyline in 6 months when he comes back? So
that's true.
Everything's good for him.
So this pay-per-view, I think more so than others, had more positive comments in my Twitter timeline than some of the other ones recently. Usually it's just like, I can't believe the WWE is screwing us again. Or, I can't believe that happened. That was boring. There was actually some better.
Yeah, when you make the right calls at the right time, it can really sort of, even if the rest of the show itself was kind of uneventful for the most part, you made the right booking decisions in the right areas. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the show overall, up to it, including the Cena match, was really, really good. And then there were kind of things that kind of petered off, and also, I mean, the fact that it's a 6-hour show, including the pre-show, you kind of get worn out, and you ready to go to bed to a certain degree.
Just having 2 back-to-back non-matches.
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
Can really suck the wind out of your sails. Like, You put
to end the show.
Yeah, to end the show, like you put Roman Reigns versus Rusev versus. That match never happened, but ahead of like two world title matches, like like that. And that was clearly how that was always going to end. It was clearly the pay-per-views were going to end with 2 matches back to back with no outcomes. Like, that was a weird decision, and the payoff wasn't really there for the Roman Reigns match in particular.
Well, I don't understand why they gave away the match on Raw on the Go Home show.
Yeah.
The match was there. He won clean, and then they went into a pay-per-view match. They reversed it. It should have been the angle. The beatdown angle should have been on Raw, and then the match on the pay-per-view. But I don't know.
And now you have to hot shot him into the world title picture again because of Finn, because it's a fatal 4-way on Monday. Is that what it
is? Yeah.
With him in it, so with Rusev nowhere around, I guess.
Yeah, Rusev. The characterization of Rusev is a topic for another podcast.
Yeah.
Now he's supposed to be this huge heel, but he doesn't do anything wrong other than be a jerk a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Other than being super patriotic for his own country and not ours, like.
Which isn't even really his country.
It's not even his country. Yeah. But because Roman Reigns has just been a stinking ass this entire dude, and it's almost unwatchable at this point. Like,
so then that gets us over to do you want to talk about anything else on Raw?
Do we talk about how just absolutely terrible the red strap looks on the title belt? Like,
I heard about that. Yeah, people were talking about there's the red strap and there's a blue strap on SmackDown. Is that what?
The tag titles are blue straps with silver plates. They look exactly like the current tag titles, but yet with a dark blue strap and silver plates. It looks better than Raw.
They look like a pair of dimes rather than a pair of pennies.
That style looks a lot more like 80s, like territorial title, at least with the dark blue straps and stuff and silver plates and stuff. So it kind of works.
The New Hampshire champion.
Yeah. But,
so then there was SmackDown, and I think the big thing. So you guys gave me the homework to watch SmackDown. Which was a pretty good show. I gotta say, it was a good solid 25 minutes. But that ending with The Miz, I thought was really good.
It was super good.
Super good.
The best thing Miz has done in quite a while.
Yes, and it really, his interaction with Daniel Bryan and Daniel Bryan's kind of comments, which is, I don't like your wrestling style, and I don't think the fans like your wrestling style. He was part of that, I'm sure, was being honest. But at the same time, the Miz kind of loses it, and I don't know how much this was scripted, but. He puts up some great points, At the same time, you're like, the Miz is kind of a jerk, but at the same time, I kind of agree with him, and I feel bad for him that he's being jerked around. So it was kind of emotional.
Yeah, it was very clearly the WWE kind of going on the defensive, because he does wrestle the WWE style. He was born within the WWE system. They bred him. He's been a guy that they made, because before that he wasn't a wrestler.
Right.
Like, he had aspirations of being a wrestler, but it was. So he wrestles a much safer, and Daniel Bryan wrestles a much more dangerous style, and it finished his career.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's the WWE being a little defensive towards the audience a little bit, like, but you know what? He's still okay. He's never been hurt. So
that's true.
About it? Our style works. You may find it boring, but our style works.
And that's on the heels
of. If you agree with that or not is a completely different story, but.
Yep, totally. Like it's hot on the heels of the Finn Balor injury as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone's been in recent memory. I mean, Tommy just came back from a serious injury. Balor's out. You had Cesaro injured for a while. You had
Sami Zayn was out for
Sami Zayn injured for a while. I mean, all these indie darlings that we all know and love who've watched stuff other than WWE. All of our guys have been hurt in the last few years that they've all been wrestling in the company. So
yeah.
And I mean, Hulk Hogan went years without ever getting hurt. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Until his ribs were broken by the mighty earthquake. Was it earthquake or Yokozuna? Or both, probably at some point.
Earthquake, yeah, sat on his ribs. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember seeing Hogan go on like Letterman and talk about how bad his ribs are messed up because of.
But you have a lot of conspiracy theories rolling around as to what that Ms. Daniel Bryan segment really was.
Either way, it was great. I'm way more interested in SmackDown now because of that segment. And so whatever they did, they planned it out right because here I am now.
When they did the draft and you saw the sort of the talent that they drafted and everything, you're like, I don't know about this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
It's the wrestling fans wrestling show kind of thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they're gonna call it the wrestling show. Like,
You've just come up with our podcast name.
But yeah, because wrestling's a no word in the WWE. You're not allowed to say wrestling. But that's how they're billing SmackDown. So.
Mm-hmm. That Talking Smack show, it's really interesting how they present that. I've watched them all. There's only been a few now since the brand split, and there's definitely a vibe that it's more improv, like less scripted, less hard scripted.
I think it's the ideal way to sort of get the third hour in, as opposed to actually they don't have that third hour that Raw has.
Mm-hmm.
So what you lose in promo time, you can gain in sort of establishing stuff in this, strictly talking scenarios. Like it's just talking. There's not much else you can do on a show.
Well, it's also it's a format that's really popular in other like geek TV shows, right? You have the Game of Thrones after show, the Walking Dead after show, and this is the SmackDown after show.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah.
And I think SmackDown's the way. Like, I don't think you'd be able to pull it off as well on like Raw. The personalities on Raw are probably a little too big for a show like that. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and they use Raw
SmackDown's the right.
They use the Raw the lead into new programming like the Holy Foley and the different shows they have on network, Stone Cold podcast and that kind of stuff. That's all lead in for something completely different rather than more Raw related stuff, because 3 hours is enough.
Yeah, 3+ hours. Yeah. So it always goes over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So and it's been that way since God, it's always been 3:10 that it actually ends. Or they used to advertise a big way that they started 3 minutes early.
So what I find kind of interesting about WWE Network right now is it actually I would not be surprised if I know they have a subscription right now, but it would be cool for them to have an actual WWE Network on like cable. I would pay the extra for that to have that as a station because it's not always great for me to watch on a laptop screen, so if I could watch it on my big screen, that would be cool. But they used to
have WWE 24/7, which is an on-demand thing.
Yep, I do remember that. No, but they have 8 hours of 8+ hours of like live wrestling programming, right? Maybe even more so than that now, but so there's actual live live wrestling happening, live sports entertainment happening on the show, on the network, which is cool.
Yeah, like they're filming NXTs like right now, like so you're gonna know what like a month's worth of NXT is in a couple of hours if you wanted to.
Well, it's sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh, I was gonna say I try to keep it spoiler free on all that stuff as I can. Just let it flow natural on the screen. It helps.
I used to.
Oh, I was gonna say it helps. It helps me tweet about it if it's natural.
Go ahead, JJ. Your turn.
I used to never watch SmackDown at all. So I was always okay with SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean SmackDown was always spoiled, right, by the time it aired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
They used to spoil their own stuff if the title change happens. They would just always.
So one of the things that I've been planning on doing is to go back and watch movies about wrestling. I mean, obviously, The Wrestler is one of my top 10 movies of all time. It's just such a great movie in general. But yeah. But I want to watch movies about wrestling. I mean, I'm thinking of putting together like a playlist. Like, I hate to bring up Nacho Libre because it's not necessarily a great. Kind of fits in that genre, but you have like really bad movies. Like, was it No Holds Barred? That old
Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
No Holds Barred.
Hulk Hogan and Zeus.
Yes, Zeus. God, that guy. So it may be worthwhile on a future episode of this podcast to talk about some, like a playlist of old wrestling movies, just to see what if people want to just watch either good or usually bad movies about wrestling or documentaries, and it would be kind of cool to.
Yeah, because Beyond the Mat is sort of the go-to for a wrestling sort of movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a documentary about that very particular time in wrestling history.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird to go back to it now, like knowing what the future held, watching and knowing because it focuses a lot on Jake Snake Roberts, and especially during his particularly difficult times, on smoking crack and what have you. So
was this the one that had like folks like Ric Flair and Lex Luger and those talking about, or I'm thinking of a different documentary?
You might be thinking about Jake's more recent, the resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts.
It might be that one. Yeah.
No, because this one was what, 98?
Oh, okay. No, this is okay. It's not this one.
Yeah, it was around. It was 99 when Mankind took off. Yeah, I Quit match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it focuses a lot around Jake the Snake Roberts and Mick Foley. Those are the two sort of focal points.
And Terry Funk.
And Terry Funk, that's right, Terry Funk, and a couple of like the wrestler style scenarios of kind of old timers going to conventions or doing things that sort of like, oh man, I remember you from the 80s and how huge you used to be. Now you're in a high school gym.
Oh, okay. Speaking of which, I think it was it George the Animal Steel became a gym teacher here locally in the Michigan area, and he actually taught a buddy of mine in high school, like gym, which I'm like, that's so bizarre that was your gym teacher was George the Animal Steel. I'm like, did you ever like ask him for an autograph or something? Or yeah, it's funny.
Wasn't it deal with him early on? Was that it was a secret that he was a wrestler? Like he would go out of town to wrestle?
It might be. It might have been. Yeah, it might have been.
Like that was sort of like it was his. Yeah, it was secret from everyone. Like he had to go out of state to wrestle so nobody would know that he was a wrestler or whatever.
Hey guys, my English lit teacher, I don't know, he comes in bruised every Tuesday morning. I don't know
why. Yelling, "Oh yeah!" all the time. I don't know why.
Ooh yeah! Get your homework done, brother.
Do your math, do your literature, do your science.
Math, literature, science. I don't know if you guys ever. Okay, you guys know who Will Sasso is? Obviously, he's been involved in wrestling in the past as well, but he does a phenomenal.
He wrestled a match in WCW once.
He wrestled in WCW and got whipped. No, but he does phenomenal impersonations of Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh yeah,
this Stone Cold Steve Austin is brilliant. It all boils down to Stone Cold like listing things. He'll say like. He'll say stuff like, I've had all kinds of cereal. I've had Wheaties, Fruit Loops. I've had honeycomb. And it's lists. Like that's all he'll do is list. Stone Cold lists. It's awesome.
His impersonation got Roddy Piper in trouble with Steve Austin on his.
Did it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Apparently, it made Steve Austin very mad. The impersonation.
Man.
And this was like days before Piper died. Too.
Oh no.
So, like,
yeah, it wasn't that long.
One of the last memories Steve Austin has of Roddy Piper is being upset with him. So.
Because of Will Sasso.
Because of Will Sasso's impersonation.
What they did on Piper's podcast, he called up Hacksaw Jim Duggan and got Sasso to pretend he was Steve Austin, and have Austin, and then as Austin make fun of him and his football career and all kinds of things, and they got Hacksaw really really pissed off, and So I mean, they revealed the gag and then it was all over. But then Austin was a bit miffed that he was used to.
That's brilliant. It's horrible, but it's brilliant at the same time. But we'll have to say that for another time. We are coming in on the close of our show. We've actually been able to speak quite a bit for some of the big shows that have happened.
Mm-hmm. We didn't even get to talk about Bobby Roode's theme song at all.
Do it. So let's talk. Do it. Do it.
I bought that theme song. I really, really like that theme song a whole lot.
That song is like #1 on the soundtrack theme song individual songs list on iTunes.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah.
That's great. I'm downloading it. I'm like going over to download it right now on iTunes. I didn't even realize
people had only heard it like twice, and they were already singing along with it at Takeover. Like,
I tell you, whoever is doing the music in NXT right now is doing a bang up job. Just between Nakamura's entrance as well at Takeover. Yeah, I mean, with the violinist, just that song.
Yeah, you had big shoes to fill because Nakamura's theme in New Japan was iconic. And I think they were able to sort of really fill those shoes really nicely.
Mm-hmm. I mean, whenever this sort of new, the new era of NXT started, and it really started up in the music game to get these guys. I think the attempt is to give them a unique and identifiable character just on the basis of the music hitting, and you know who this is. I mean, it's hit and miss. It's not perfect, but I mean, the real important guys like Balor's music is really good. Mm-hmm. Owen's music is good. I mean, Sami Zayn's music is really good. I mean, all that came through that period, right?
Yeah.
And into now, and now Glorious
because they don't strictly rely on their Jim Johnston anymore. Like,
no.
So that's.
I just downloaded the song, by the way. Just giving you guys. It's called "Glorious Domination."
Yep.
Bobby Roode.
That's the one.
It's the best theme song in wrestling right now.
I will have to do our best wrestling theme songs edition of the podcast as well, because that could be kind of cool too.
Oh yeah,
very cool.
You should check out on Twitter, I guess, or Vine or whatever they posted it on. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, are two wrestlers from NXT, have been doing this funny little video bit called the Glorious Bomb, where they play.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah. It was tremendous, and that's gotten the song way over as well.
Oh God, there's this. It is really amazing how. Not amazing, but it's WWE has done a phenomenal job of working social media and understanding like viral videos and viral content, because
they're getting good.
They're getting really good at it. They're letting the wrestlers and the talent be themselves, and I think that's what's helping.
Yeah, thanks, Zack Ryder.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Because WWE, like, for how we perceive WWE. They really jumped on their social media like all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't seem like that'd be a thing that WWE would be super into, but they just they've tried everything.
Yeah,
they're doing great. It's engaging the fans. So
watch our touts or
whatever.
Yeah, touts. Yeah, that was a thing for a bit.
Like the hashtag game was huge for them, and still is.
Still is.
Love showing out on the bottom of the screen what's trending right now. Like every Monday night, they've always got something trending.
Now, granted, they're not quite as ham-fisted with it now as they were when they first started jumping on that bandwagon, but now it's a little more subtle, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a little too on the nose for a little bit.
It was.
There.
I mean,
Make sure you all tweet out this message, and maybe your message will show up here on the screen.
Tweet this out. Use the app.
Use the app.
Yeah. They would even make it tweet out this hashtag, and the most hits with this hashtag is it'll be a no holds barred match instead of a cage match or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or retweet, pick one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of what it was for a little bit.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, they did that they had a pay-per-view at one point where that was literally all it was.
Really?
You picked the matches by voting online.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That could not go wrong.
No, what could possibly? Of course, nobody believed for 1 minute that that our votes really were counting towards anything.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. another fun podcast, recapping the week and diving into a little bit of fun wrestling history and
Eventually we'll talk about stuff other than WWE. I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
There's just so much WWE content that it's hard to branch out.
It's hard to avoid it almost. Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get there, folks. Trust us. We'll get there. There is a lot of.
We'll have a whole Lucha Underground episode.
Yeah.
We're
2 weeks away from the debut of season 3, so.
Oh, brilliant! I'm writing that down. That's also my homework.
Lucha Underground will be a mini series of podcasts. Just
there you go.
Anyone who's ever seen it.
So good. Well, thank you, John, JJ, Dolly. My name doesn't begin with a J, unfortunately. Jolly. I'll call myself Jolly. Jolly Boar.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. You can find me at Dolly Domofsky. John, where can I find you?
At John Keogh on Twitter.
And JJ? Oh, sorry.
I always have this habit of spelling it. JONKEHOE.
All right. JJ?
It's the double J, and it's the _double_J. And it has nothing to do with Jeff Jarrett, despite
I remember Jeff Jarrett was awesome, yeah. Double J Jeff Jarrett. And whenever we get the name, we'll have it up on all other manners. Maybe we'll even get our own social media accounts set up too. But give us time to come up with a name. If you have any names, please text or tweet or tout, whatever you want to do.
Tout us your tweets.
Tout us your tweets. Do you have clout? Anybody use clout? No. Yeah, feel free to let us know. Give us a name. Otherwise, we'll try to come up with something that's probably pretty horrible. But with that said, thank everybody for watching and eventually listening to this podcast. We definitely thank you guys. We have a lot of fun putting it together. These 2 weeks have been a lot of fun for me getting back into wrestling. I really got to thank John and JJ because you've opened my eyes, and I'm just probably about 10 days into my free month of WWE, but I may keep it thanks to this podcast.
Well, you're gonna have to now. How are we?
I'm gonna have to now. Exactly.
I'm gonna start making you watch old pay-per-view.
Hey, here's a funny little side story. When WWE first announced the network, I was at CES with Ben. Actually, we'll have to get Ben on as well. We both got. They handed out Google. Was a little Google box, the Chromecasts, WWE versions of the Google Chromecast. So,
which is funny since like that it didn't even have like Chromecast support out the gate.
Yeah, it didn't. It's just like here's a Chromecast. Maybe one day you could use it if you watch it through. I guess if you watch it through Chrome, the browser.
Yeah.
Whatever. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace. See ya. Bye.
Night.